While Jay continues to hope for a revitalized Michael Thomas, if that happens, the world is hoping for a revitalized, healthy Cooper Kupp right now. Who, Jay, is he simply, you hinted at this a little earlier when we were talking about Marvin Harrison. You were like, I like the player, but I would simply wait many spots to get a comparable wide receiver. Is Cooper Kupp one of those guys that's being underdrafted right now?
Yeah, so there's two things among wide receivers in fantasy this year that I just don't understand, recognizing that it's a fairly efficient market. Don't understand why Justin Jefferson isn't going higher, and I don't understand why Cooper Kupp isn't going higher. And here is the case for Cooper Kupp. Here is where he is ranked in fantasy points per game the past 3 years. First, and then 24th last year, where he's coming off an array of injuries. And I think that everyone is just kind of baked in that he's definitely not the same guy who was first in 21 and 22 because of those injuries. But for me, I think that he has earned the benefit of the doubt, and he showed enough flashes last year. He played 10 full games with Matthew Stafford in the regular season, and he scored 20 plus fantasy points 4 of those times. So he still has upside. He absolutely cooked the Ravens secondary, the best defense in the NFL, towards the end of the season. And I think with a full off season of health and all the reporting out of camp, Jeremy Fowler had a really insightful look at the Rams camp where he said that not only is Cooper Kupp back physically, but he is the wide receiver 1 for the Rams over Puka Nacua, that he is being treated as the guy. So I just think that relative to cost, like, he's going outside the top 40 in some fantasy drafts. I just don't understand how that can possibly be the case when he's like, it's been talking about like he's 34 years old. The Cooper Kupp is 9 months older than Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill has dealt with injury issues as well. So like Tyreek Hill is wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and Cooper Kupp is wide receiver 18. Like, I just think that Kupp should be going significantly higher. His over-under for receiving yards on DraftKings is 950.5. Like, give me the over on Cooper Kupp. Like, he's going for 1K plus at least, I think. And I think that he's going to be in for a big bounce back year, because all the reporting has been that, you know, he took it really rough. The way that he is being talked about as not an elite wide receiver anymore. We know how much he takes care of his body. He's going to do everything to put himself in a position to succeed. So give me all the Cooper Kupp shares.
I'm 100% with you. 11 games last year. My little Cooper Kupp, you know, I love Cooper Kupp. But listen, he had 11 healthy games last year. And in those 11 healthy games, he had a 27% target share. He had the same number of targets as Puka Nacua in that time frame as well. Those 11 healthy games, he averaged almost 15 fantasy points per game. He had 3 different games with 25 or more fantasy points. So kind of three weeks where, you know, he won you the week single-handedly as well. I have him at 33 overall on my ranks. My ranks, of course, up for free on rotoworld.com. I'm a company man. But I'm at 33 overall. And just to give you a sense of, like, on ESPN, he's going at 49th. Yahoo, he's going at 38. So Yahoo's a little bit better, but Yahoo defaults is half point PPR. ESPN is full PPR. So I honestly, I'm baffled by the ESPN ADP of basically barely top 50. He's going basically like 23rd overall on underdog, but that's more best ball. And so where you're not worried about the injury, because just like when he has a good game, he's great. So it makes more sense there. But I'm at 33 overall. So I'm much higher than him, in the overall consensus ranks than he is going where, like, on ESPN or Yahoo. And I just, I'm with you. Like, the anti Cooper Kupp argument is literally health, because to your point, like Tyreek Hill, basically the same age, also a prolific offense. I would argue Cooper Kupp probably has a better quarterback for him.
Yep.
Like, Stafford and Kupp have more of a connection than Tua and Tyreek to an extent. And I think you could argue that, I mean, again, Tyreek's dealing with Waddle for targets. Right. Cooper's dealing with Nacua. Like, Hill has more established competition for targets. They've also dealt with, again, I'm not comparing Cooper Kupp to Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill is also a guy that can go for 200 yards any given week. Like, he's unbelievable. But I think it's a well-spoken point that, like, no one's knocking Tyreek Hill for being over 30 and having injury concerns, and they're just killing Cooper Kupp, who is not that far removed from being, back-to-back seasons of being, one of the elite wide receivers on a point per game basis. And so where he's going, at 33 over, I mean, he's going in the 5th or 6th round on ESPN. He's going in the 4th to 5th on Yahoo. So, I'm as a late 3rd, early 4th.
Right
Big
now,
fan of Cooper Kupp this year. And I agree with you. I'll just say this, at cost, give me Cooper Kupp over Puka Nacua all day, every day.
Yeah, and right now on ESPN, Cooper Kupp is going after the following people in drafts. He's going after Devontae Smith, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs. I'd just straight up rather Kupp than any of those guys, like irrespective of cost. I just think that he's going to have a better season. So he's probably the one player that I'm going to end up with the most in drafts, I think.
Our final wide receiver topic for today, guys. T. Higgins, Matthew, somebody who dealt with an injury-riddled season last year. There was a lot of thought he could be on the move this offseason, maybe to an offense where he becomes the guy. That didn't happen as well. Now we're looking at an ADP that is outside the top 60 in fantasy for T. Higgins. While the concerns are all there and we're aware of them, has this simply just gone too far for such a talented player and a talented passing offense?
I think so. His ADP on Yahoo, he's going outside the top 60. On ESPN, he's going outside the top 70. And, this is a guy who, for 3 straight seasons has averaged at least 8.5 yards per target. In his healthy games last year, he was still getting a 20% target share. I get it. It was a disappointing year, but now on a 1-year deal with Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow knows he's going to need it. And they lost Tyler Boyd this offseason, right? They lost Joe Mixon. And so I know we're all excited about Chase Brown and seeing what he can do. And, we'll see if Jermaine Burton can get onto the field. Andre Oshavis, is that how I pronounce his last name?
Oshavis, but you're close.
He's having a nice camp, and he's going to be their slot guy. But really, it's going to be Joe Burrow is back. He's healthy, and it's going to be the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins show, as we saw 2 years ago. And so I'm at wide receiver 30, as you see there on your screen. But in the overall ranks, I'm at 53 overall. Again, he's going outside the top 60 on Yahoo, outside the top 70 on ESPN. I'm at 53 overall. I do think the hate has gone too far on T. Higgins, who wants to have a big year, and the Bengals need him to have a big year, Jay.
Yeah, and the Bengals, they randomly play a last place schedule this year, which might be the last time that happens in Joe Burrow's prime. So that's helpful to get 3 easier matchups. I think with Higgins, I get it in principle. At the same time, like on Yahoo, he's going ahead of Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, Malik Neighbors, Christian Kirk. I'd probably rather all of those guys, like slightly above T. Higgins. I just think because of the upside where
he's going ahead of Malik Neighbors. Is he really?
Yeah. Yep.
That
Malik
seems
Neighbors
crazy
is wide receiver 28 on Yahoo right now, what I'm looking at. So, and T. Higgins is wide receiver 25. Like, I just think that particularly
Neighbors is way too low. Let's just start there.
Yeah. He's I think with Zay Flowers and Neighbors in particular, like those guys, I mean, they will be the wide receiver 1 in their offenses. And T. Higgins has no scope really to do that unless Jamar Chase goes down. So
we've seen this before. We've seen Higgins and Chase both be like top 12 in a season.
Yeah, we have. I just think that with just the ancillary factors, the fact that they play in the AFC North and they have to go up against 3 really good defenses, the fact that, they play in cold weather, I think that deflates value a little bit. And so, look, he can provide value, and I think that his ADP right now is fine, going in that, late 50s, early 60s range. Again, as well, you worry a little bit about, I try not to buy too much into like the motivational stuff around contracts, but I mean, all that swirling isn't ideal. So I don't think I'm going to end up with T. Higgins in a lot of drafts, but I mean, he still has the upside, and yeah, he can have those massive games alongside Chase when defenses overload to Chase and it becomes the T. Higgins show. So I think he's fine. I think he's relatively high floor, but there are guys going in that range that I would prefer, like Neighbors and Flowers.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. Again, I have him at wide receiver 30, so it's not like I have him ranked super high. I have him ranked around where, but just I have him ranked higher in the overall. And maybe it's just more about draft philosophy and wanting wide receivers that are more consistent than, some of the running backs. But I think in terms of the overall, he's being somewhat disrespected, not necessarily in the positional ranks.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.